So let's talk a little bit about the writing workshop process. Now, in a normal 16-week course, I would have students doing this incrementally along the way to make sure that you had a complete, and as it says here, whole paper by the time we got to the end and it was time to turn in a rough draft, do the peer review, and turn in a final draft of your essay. Now, because of the short nature of this class and because we only have 3 weeks left, I'm not going to require it. I'm going to make it an optional element that I will allow you to do. In fact, I have established a new section here on the course called Writing Workshops, where I will be putting up sections based on what I'm about to talk about for you to post work when you have it. So if you wanted to, say, go along with this process, you could go along and create your introduction, post it, get feedback, post your background, get feedback, post your argument, get feedback. I will have places for you to do that if that's something you want to do. The idea being here is to keep you on task, to have your paper ready when they say sometimes to do our rough draft and our peer review. And it will model basically very similar to the basic layout as we have in our research paper assignment sheet, the sections of our paper. The only difference being is that the last 2 sections, conclusion and works cited, will be put together in what's called Writing Workshop 5. The other ones will follow basically as they are. And this is how it basically works as an approach. Now, I will be posting a template that you can use to just get started on your research paper. But as you get certain sections done, say for example the first one being your introduction with your thesis statement, you can go ahead and post that to the submission form in writing. I'll have a Writing Workshop 1 form up by Monday. You could post it. I'll get a notification that you posted it there through Moodle. I will go, I can take a look at it. I will give you feedback on it based on what you have. You can then take that feedback, improve it. You could go then to the second writing workshop, and the next time around, say for Writing Workshop 2, you have your introduction and now you've added your background to it. You could submit that. Okay, and what I've got here along the way here is not to mention I have all the little 5 sections, but I've got guidance along with them as they connect. So Writing Workshop 1 is simply about typing out your introduction, having a thesis statement. That's it. Okay. Writing Workshop 2, and keep in mind that every writing workshop, these cover individual sections, but you should be adding to them and revising. So let's say you turned in Writing Workshop 1, which was your introduction thesis statement. I gave you feedback. Writing Workshop 2, you turned in that same introduction, but now you've added your background. I would hope that the introduction section you gave me would also now be revised based on the feedback I gave you in Writing Workshop 1. So the purpose here is to sort of, as we move along, you're improving your paper, getting it up to a, I wouldn't say necessarily perfect level, but an acceptable level for when things come time, such as the peer review and stuff like that. So say, for example, Writing Workshop 1 and then Writing Workshop 2, when you turn in Writing Workshop 3, it should be your introduction plus your background, and now you've added the argument to it. All right. And for each one of these, I've got little sections here. This, of course, would be your largest section. You're going to be using sources to support your argument. I'll have more specific information coming down the pipeline about the counter-argument section. And then, of course, the conclusion and works cited. And I have this here to sort of show you that you're not only unpacking these elements and putting together your paper, but every time you do one of these writing workshops, you're basically adding on. Every writing workshop may be focused on, say, introduction to background, argument, counter-argument, conclusion. That does not mean that that's what you should turn in. If you're going to go through this process, ideally you should turn in your introduction the first time. The second time it should be your introduction plus your background. Third time it should be your introduction plus your background plus your argument. And of course, with both the background and the introduction, you've hopefully done some revision based on previous feedback. So if you see the process here, it's like we're rolling along here, and as we're going through this process, you're going to get some feedback from me, and this is a chance for you to get feedback before we get to, say, the peer review or the rough draft, so that you can hopefully beat yourself on point. Because remember, again, that whole point scale and how it works is that ultimately this is designed to make sure that when it comes to do the rough draft and the peer review, you have a complete paper. Now, maybe you don't have it perfect and it needs to be revised, but the idea being is that if you have an introduction, a background, an argument, a counter argument, conclusion, and a works cited page, particularly when it comes time to turn your rough draft. If you have all these parts, you ideally won't lose any points of those 50 points. And if you have all those parts, you should hopefully have something good for your people to comment on, your peers, that should hopefully then make sure that it's on point and where it needs to be for things like, making sure that you get your full points there. The idea being here is that the process is meant to keep you on task, ideally. So, and of course with this one, I'm making it voluntary, and a normal 16-week class, this would be a mandatory thing. I'm going to make it a voluntary thing for this class. So, but I do want to heavily encourage you to participate in it, okay? Because I don't want you to lose out on the fact that this is a chance for you to basically get piece by piece feedback from me. So every time I'm going to be looking at a part of your paper, it's a chance for me to give you some feedback on it to hopefully make it as best as it can possibly be, and to get some institutional instructional guidance from me before such times as when you turn in the rough draft, because it would make it easier on you if you only had to correct so much or add so much here or there, rather than have to do an entire comprehensive rewriting of your paper, because I've given you feedback now in your introduction, background, argument, counter argument, all that together at once. So that's part of why this process works. And I'll be making individual posts about each writing workshop and what it's going to be covering as we go forward. Keep in mind, though, that it is going to be optional. I will have a section here. Come Monday, there will be a writing workshop 1 and probably writing workshop 2 submission form. So once you start writing those things, go ahead and start posting them. All right. And once you start posting, I'll start giving you feedback. All right.